I'm in a sweatshirt tonight. I'm normally in the collar.
Well, you're very welcome to Broadsheet on the Telly. Good evening. Happy Holy Thursday. And very, very, very good Friday to you tomorrow. Welcome to all Broadsheet readers and commenters. Big hello to Johnny Keenan down in Kilkenny, Vanessa Foran in Dublin. We're going to be joined by a number of people over the next 2 hours. So settle in. And I just want to go straight to Vanessa Foran. Vanessa,
Hi, John.
good
Sorry,
evening.
John, quick cross. Are you on? Are you live? Were we live? No, because it says off air on my tag here. That's all.
Oh, does it?
Just wanted to make sure. But that's probably where I am.
Well, maybe ask the mosh pit. Can everybody see Johnny Keenan? Because I can see him, and you can see him, Vanessa.
Yeah.
So, Vanessa, just
sorry, excuse me.
Just behind you is the photograph from today from O'Connell Street, and it was asked about the verdict in the trial of the rugby players up in Ulster, or the Ulster rugby players, right, in Northern Ireland. You weren't at the event today, but it feels like it's the start of something, or it's the end of something.
No, I think it's the start of something, because it picked up across a number of cities. Cork, Limerick, Derry and Galway. But when on a previous show, John, you tried to introduce the trial, the discussion, and we got as far as, Rory Best arriving in his all dolled up when the complainant, we're to call her, was given her evidence. And it was like the Tuesday or Wednesday before the first game in the Grand Slam, and I think I remember saying then, and I'm open to correction, but I remember saying that I actually think what's going to change is how we report these court cases and how people react to these court cases and how people attend these court cases. Because we then found out after that show, actually, that Rory was asked to be there by one of the defence lawyers. So he took instruction. Now, I don't know if he took instruction from his clubs or anything like that, but
yeah, he did,
I don't want. Sorry, John.
He blamed the barrister, saying that a barrister told him to go, or one of the legal team had told him to go.
Okay. Well, my thing on it is that we don't have the detail of the evidence that we would have, say, from the Carlton Tribunal. So I don't want to kind of get into I believe her, I don't believe her, I believe them, or but I'm strong. What I would say about the whole case is they were found not guilty. There's this thing of we were innocent and I'm an innocent man, that his solicitor or Paddy Jackson's solicitor was very aggressive about in his speech to the press yesterday. So I'd rather not talk about that, but I do think we need, as a society, not just that jurisdiction, this jurisdiction, Western Europe or whatever. I think as a society overall, we have to look at how we prosecute rape, how the court case conducts itself, how it's reported, how victims are treated, how the accused are treated and recorded. I don't have the answer to that, but something needs to change. And I think this might be the trigger, because we have to encourage people to report rape. But men need to come forward and report rape. Children need to know that they can come forward and report a rape. At the moment, nobody is, like, what people have seen in the last 9 weeks, no girl is going to report a rape. Nobody's going, you know what I mean? They would be put off. But the stories that have made the press, and this thing down on the stall where they all lined up in front of the victim to shake their man's hand, Dennis Foley, and I've said about this before, but we need to come up with something. urgently on how we change the prosecution and the treatment of a rape case.
Do you feel that this is that case?
I do. I think this is the turning point.
And why? Yeah, sorry, Vanessa, go on.
Yeah, I just thought the momentum and the sort. Well, like I was looking at all the YouTube clips there before we came on air, and there was a definite community. There was no kids being dragged along like you see at the pro-life marches or everyone was there willingly. You could actually see they had their own signs. They were almost like thousands of just people that turned up on their own. They didn't come in groups.
No, it seemed to be
totally spontaneous as well.
Yeah. And,
okay, obviously it's not spontaneous. It goes out on Facebook and it goes out on WhatsApp and.
Yeah, but sort of within 24 hours. Good
collection. There was more people turned up now than they turned up to the stage protest for homelessness. Was it before Christmas? Apollo House.
And
sorry, John. The other thing is, the kind of the groundswell that the guys were found not guilty. Something has to be said about their attitude to women, because that's not unique. That's quite common.
Yeah, but they weren't on trial. They weren't on trial.
No, I know.
Women.
In certain circles, it's quite common, but to say it's quite common across the board, I don't think it's fair, Vanessa.
Sorry, Johnny. 1 second, well, Vanessa. Having followed the trial, were you surprised at the verdict?
I don't know. Well, from what I heard, and that's what I'm saying. I'm careful about kind of committing to an opinion, but from what I heard, I found it hard that they could come up with that.
Right.
But then, I wasn't in there. I didn't witness all 4 barristers go through this girl. One thing I would say is that I think she should have had her own legal representation. Because if she was my daughter, I'd have made sure she was armed up to the gills. I wouldn't have relied on the state. She was a witness to the state, the Crown Prosecution Service.
Yeah,
I think she should have had her own representation.
Yeah, there was mention that they were represented by London QCs, or at least I think Paddy Jackson was represented by London Chambers, and they were regarded as better than the locals. The
local boys. Okay.
Yeah, apparently, according to a report in the Independent, anyway. It's
when you have such a big news story, you're going to have the big boys from the Queen's Council coming forward, aren't you, anyway?
Well, I mean, I guess.
Well, he would need a senior counsel anyway. They would have had to engage senior counsel. Let's call it the senior counsel, Queen's Council.
Yeah, well, I mean,
it's a different jurisdiction anyway. So that's it was Queen's Council. So
yeah, but that's just called the same rank. But maybe most of those guys are based in London and they commute anyway. Maybe the work isn't in Belfast.
Where does this particular protest go then? I mean, there's another.
I think it's going to continue. I think it's going to form part of the referendum campaign. It is going to continue. This whole "we believer." Okay, I'm a bit disappointed, not in a sort of a general sense, that it isn't a bit more gender neutral, because the thing is, people need to be encouraged to report a rape or an assault. There is nothing in what anyone has seen in the last 5 years in Ireland that it's worth your while, that you're better off saying and doing nothing.
The jury, it didn't take them very long to acquit the 4 men. I mean, 2 for Olding and Jackson for alleged rape, and Blaine McElroy. I want to get this right. Rory Harrison with 2 for 2 lesser charges. One was for exposure, but they took so little time. It's felt that they had decided quite a long time ago that they were not guilty. I mean, it feels like we've been watching a different trial to the one they have almost.
Well, it is. Maybe there are grounds for appeal, but the Crown Prosecution Service haven't mentioned that they're considering an appeal, have they?
No, well, I haven't heard anything like that. But I mean, it would be entirely up to her, wouldn't it?
Well, no, I mean, was she not the witness for the Crown Prosecution Service?
Yes, of course. Yes.
Unless she takes the civil action.
Well, there's that. But what I'm saying is regarding this case, then this will be the cause célèbre, if you want. To what end are they trying to achieve on that front? Does that make any sense?
No, try it again and see. You mean to find grounds for an appeal, to go back to court?
Yeah, to what end, as regards this particular case, you know, we believe her, but now what? I mean, now.
But for this movement or this outcry.
Yeah.
I suppose it'll probably just get more organised. I imagine. Well, I'm not going to second guess these people, but I imagine it'll get more organised. I think it'll grow. I think it'll become a weekly thing, or it'll become a gathering. More stories. It may be some, you know, a Facebook page or something will come up and people will start telling their stories, and it'll go that way. But this isn't going away.
No,
I'm sure of that. I'm sure of it.
No, and Ruth Coppinger joined them today. We were going to try and contact her to come on later. We'll keep on trying anyway. We don't have a producer tonight. Neil Kern is currently performing as we speak, which is more than he does for us. I know, I'm joking. No, he's in Pearse Street now, performing improv. Johnny,
Pearse Street.
I beg your pardon?
Pearse Street. The only Pearse Street I know of is
the Garda Station.
No, well, it's
just have to go and see the lads every so often, you know.
What is that? Pearse Street. He's
the Peacock, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's a lovely theatre. I was there last year. I seen his show. It was very good. It's there on the Quays. Come on, Vanessa.
The Smock Alley.
Smock Alley.
Yeah, that sounds like something he'd say.
Yeah, the Smock Alley tonight. He's performing tonight.
As you can see, Neil, we're big fans.
Yeah.
Well, I'm literally improving his improv.
Yeah.
Were you sorry, Johnny? Were you surprised at the verdict? Had you been following the trial?
I had been following the trial. Yeah. Not to the extent that I was reading any kind of trial by social media, for example. I didn't buy into that. I was interested in relation to the reports. I don't have BBC Northern Ireland or UTV. I haven't had for a long while, and I kind of missed them because, you know, they were great channels when the Troubles was going on. It was some really good reporting, and so I'm thinking, like, I would like to have heard that side of it, because all I knew was RT and the other stations where I was getting the daily news feed, because it was going on for 8 weeks. So you'd have to have been under a rock to not know that the trial was going on. But I knew a little bit more than the average Joe, maybe, because it was important to have an informed opinion about what exactly was going on. Was I surprised with the verdict? I think it was kind of whispered, you know, by people who did know that they're going to get away with it. Whatever that was, that they were going to get away with, and they got away with it. And the outcome is there's no winners, but in actual fact, there is winners. Those 4 lads won their freedom back, you know. So that's something for them to celebrate in their own right. The girl who made allegations, she's definitely not winning. Her anonymity is known now, and she obviously is in a very bad place, because to actually bring that kind of case, to go that far with that allegation, and it was an allegation in the court of law, so I have to just go on exactly what legally was found out to be that they were not guilty. But I think her life is going to be very traumatized. And if I'm being honest, those guys, I don't know, will they play for Ireland again? Is that the big thing? in relation to their careers, their employers? I don't think they will. And I don't think they will play not because of the trial. It's just because from a corporate perspective, their name is solid. And that's why I don't think they'll play for Ireland again. And it is all about money in relation to that game. So the reputation of 4 Irish rugby players, or 2 Irish rugby players, maybe 4 Ulster players, I don't know. They just kind of reeked for me from the outset. If you look at the whole thing, like, who gives a shit what to do? It doesn't take away from the situation they were in on the 26th of June 2016. Like, whatever happened, it's not normal behavior, and I'm not a prude. I don't think that's normal behavior. It wasn't a swingers night. It didn't seem to be 100% consensual. It was just one of those things that happened. It was fueled by alcohol, and things kind of got out of hand. But the aftermath now is what's important. An awful lot of people are saying that no way, you can't trust the system now if you have a problem. And it has to be also acknowledged that this is in a different jurisdiction. It's in Northern Ireland. It's British rule. I know the Irish legal system takes an awful lot of rules still from Britain, but it would have been in camera, and that would have been the big thing for the sake of the girl, because that's where the major concern is now, I think, and how she's going to be able to deal with it. And in relation to the We Believe Her campaign, that's the outcry of women that feel that their voice isn't being heard. Just one final point, John, on this. The statistics of from the Rape Crisis Centre. There was a lady on Matt Cooper last night, and I think she was on prime time as well. But she had statistics, and I actually, someone brought up the numbers on the Broadsheet thread that something like 279 rapes were reported last year. And around, I'm giving the numbers, but around those numbers, 170 were convicted. So that's almost saying that half was conviction on the ones the rapes that were reported. I know there's a process there in relation to the DPP and selected which ones go to trial and such. But right now, because this has got to the hysteria, it can't go anymore. And I'm thinking, like, the next 2 or 3 months, those statistics will be vital. If there is a dip in reported rapes, it's going to have to be understood. Has rapes kind of stopped to a certain degree, or are they going to be reported? So it's kind of very serious in relation to the aftermath of it now, is that the legal system can't be trusted by over half the population. And that's quite serious. So in relation to the actual who's guilty, who's the winners, the guys have won. The legal profession have won, and the guys have won their freedom, which is a big thing.
Vanessa, we've been reporting on very, very lenient sentences getting handed out to for sexual assault, rape in Ireland over the last 8 years. I mean, much more grievous injustices seems to have been done, certainly in the cases that I remember over the last few years. Why is it now, do you think? Is it because of the it was a hugely publicized case, and there were other factors, class issues, rugby, and sports aspects that were not.
John, I think there was far too much read into the colour of this trial. The players, the clubs, where they lived. Who. Yeah. I think there's far too much. There's actually far too much mention of that.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, that's
would the outcome be any different? I mean, I suppose you're asking about how long they deliberated. It was 9 weeks, 2-3 days of evidence for 4 cases. I'm not sure, but then I'm really struggling to comment in a way that people would be interested in hearing, because we don't know. If we had the detail we get from Olga on the Carlton Tribunal, maybe we might be more decent in our giving a yes or no, the guilty, not guilty. But
we have an opportunity.
Can I ask you a question? Sorry.
It's far too much mention particularly in like, this was a very high profile rape case, and it was made high profile because of the people involved. I think we need to figure out a way, and it's part of the reporting or how you hear these cases, is to eliminate all those facts from the public. There's far too much influence given by who they are, where they're from, and even in the outcome, to be talking about where people lived or where their parents have a house. That's crazy. That's not justice.
Yeah, well,
it's not, but that's the big thing as well. The trial by social media. There's one thing, trial by media. There's a little bit of a censorship there in relation to an editor can pull it back, but everyone has Twitter was picked out straight away as being responsible for trial by social media, and so they have answers as well. But I just need clarification on this because I'm not sure. Was the WhatsApp discussion after the alleged incident, was that dismissed for the jury, or were they allowed to take that into consideration?
What?
WhatsApp messages, were they taken into account during the?
They were given as evidence anyway, weren't they, John? You read them. I'm too squeamish to read that, so.
Right.
You read them, John, didn't you?
But were they given as evidence? Were the jury guided by the judge to acknowledge that this conversation happened after the?
Yeah, the WhatsApp stuff was read into the evidence, Johnny.
Okay, all right, sorry. Yeah, because to me that's just crazy talk. Yeah. Regardless, they're not guilty. But that's another thing to be looked at. That's just, if that's the conversation.
Did you read those messages? Did you get sight of those messages, Johnny?
I didn't see them. No, but I just heard them. Yeah. I didn't go out of my way to look for them. So that's why I was asking the question, were they? But I got the idea of what was being said. And then when you said, that's the conversation that happens in some circles, but definitely not all. I don't know any man that would talk about women in that regard, or any man that would allow women to be talked about in that regard in their company.
I do.
Yeah, well, and to be honest with you, it kind of is something that's a little bit sporty. It's kind of what lads' culture in relation.
But the sad thing is,
being honest about it.
Yeah,
Vanessa, the sad thing is, John. No, sorry. The sad thing is about the way they talk about women. Like, they're all young men. They're all millennials. Is that what they?
Yeah.
They're all.
Yeah, but
like, they're half my age, and they haven't evolved at all.
Yeah. No, it's not about
evolving. People give out to me for saying nothing's changed. Jesus Christ. I mean, these lads should have.
It's changed, Vanessa, but it's just got progressively worse, I think, because the big problem here, well, one of the big problems is the fucking technology. You can get porn within seconds. It's the way these guys are brought up. Like, I know. No. Like, there's so many different elements to this case that have to be discussed in a public, rational conversation. First things first, fathers need to have a chat with their sons. If they're 13 or 14,
sisters need to have a word with their brothers.
Exactly, boys and sisters need to have a word with their sisters as well.
You don't talk about your friends like that. No,
like, but here's the thing as well.
The difference is,
it's not.
The difference is that I think Johnny is onto something there. That, I mean, talk about it. It wasn't even the opportunity of this kind of stuff going on. No. I mean, anybody who had an active sex life in their 20s, this stuff is a bit rich for certainly for my taste. And
same as that. And I don't think we're that naive either, John. It just wasn't around. They've got so much going on at the moment, and this is just a fact that we can't actually comprehend in relation to a 20-year-old, an average 20-year-old is there on a Friday night and they're flicking through Tinder. And they know that if they get the connection, hold on a second. Like, I don't know enough about Tinder. I'm off the game 20 years. So I only know through fucking anecdotes or what you might hear or read or see.
Yeah, so maybe online. Not. Okay.
So, like, they have got so much there at the, and then you put added to it that these guys are like walking around town, and every man wants to beat them, and every not every girl, no, but like they're very popular. So the ego is just gone tenfold. So it's a very complex situation in relation to how young guys deal in the relation to the dating game or the going out game or the swinging game, whatever game that they're playing when they're not playing sport. And like it's kind of like the conversation is real. It needs to be had that there's objectification of women is going on. Seems to be a very natural thing amongst that.
Yeah, but Johnny, the issue, the thing is with this, yeah, but they're generating it and fueling it amongst themselves, because the way that those WhatsApps have been related back to me is that they're it's between themselves, and they're spinning it between themselves. It's not like, you know, strangers or lads meeting in a pub. They're generating that.
Yeah, I know, but that's grandstanding,
mood,
you know?
That sort of language. Well, it was the morning after, so I mean, it wasn't like it was you know, that they were still stoned and they were still high or.
Oh, they were drunk, you know. There was no evidence that they were smoking cannabis, Vanessa. In actual fact, I'd say if
no,
cannabis,
that's what I said.
Yeah, they were all drunk. Alcohol was the problem there.
Okay.
Let's acknowledge that. Alcohol was the problem in relation to that. That's accepted, isn't it?
I think. I mean, 23 drinks Paddy Jackson had. That's a lot of, and they were mainly shorts. So,
Jesus Christ,
that's unbelievable.
See, a lot of people black out on that. I mean, so have.
Oh yeah. So she said her memory was hazy. How accurate was his? I'm surprised he could perform. Are you sure? Sorry, I shouldn't laugh. Sorry, but I know I shouldn't laugh.
No, really. I mean, it's the
23 shorts. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we had Shayna, who's a contributor and a commenter on the site, and it was a four-woman of the jury, and she visited the site yesterday and said that they're not allowed to discuss the what went on in the deliberation room, but she said that the jury had decided some time ago that they were, you know, before the verdict, before delivering the verdict, that there was a group collective conscience, or a group that they were not guilty. So
before they heard all the evidence.
No, I mean it was
by the summing up stage.
I'm not entirely sure, but I mean it was they were the verdict was not a surprise to them, obviously. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, having sat through the evidence that we haven't sat through, you know,
it's hard to know. It's hard to know.
It's a 4-hour decision anyway.
Well, I think she should have been allowed her own counsel, to be honest. So yeah, whether it's,
yeah,
I find that extraordinary that even her family didn't have. Maybe they did. Look, but
well, there's a few things there in relation to that. Well, one thing anyway that I was kind of pondering about, like they would have had to question her. The PSNI would have had to question her, like really kind of, you know, harshly, to make sure that she was telling the truth. And then they decided that she was, and then they said that they're going to bring a case to the DPP saying rape charges. Now, was there another charge that they could have put there that to say, like, if they weren't going to be charged with rape, that they could be charged with something in relation to...
Well, if we could charge everyone for being absolute wankers, you know, the courts would be filled.
Yeah, well, I didn't mean that, like, but there must be a lesser charge.
The two guys, Blaine McElroy and Rory Harrison, were on much lesser charges, and they were acquitted too. So,
okay.
Like
the one that some people are beginning to say, and I was kind of muted last night, that the female witness who said that she didn't see anything untoward, more or less, could that have considered a turning point in the trial?
Vanessa?
from again, from what I'd put together, I think if there was even any inclination the girl was struggling or crying, or even if there was a scratch mark somewhere, or fought off, or it would have been a very different case, or a very different trial. That's from what, if one other, I think it might have influenced the jury, all right, that another woman walked in and just saw, group sex going on, and kind of went, oh, and instead of going, hang on, this doesn't look right, her own, if her instinct was, it wasn't, it was actually on the up and up. I think that would have had something to do with it. All right.
Didn't her evidence contradict Oldham's?
But didn't two of their sets of evidence contradict?
Yeah.
Or two, three. But your God, that guy, what's his name? McElroy was getting himself into all sorts of confusion. I think he thought he was at a different party altogether at some point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they were clearly, off their trees,
Yeah. I mean, the PSNI
makes you wonder about athletes.
PSNI now obviously have to answer why did this case go so horribly wrong?
Yeah. Well, but isn't this part of the campaign here that's starting to build up steam? Because I'm sure this is only just starting. It's not, the investigations aren't given the resources they deserve. The science part of it, the lab and the collecting of evidence, isn't as thorough and the best possibly available. It's applied to these sort of cases.
Now, these guys aren't particularly likable, right? I'll just put that out there. They don't seem to be very nice guys, and they're just kind of obnoxious. Their behaviour around what happened, but they've been acquitted. Now, if you've been acquitted and you've got rallies with people saying, we don't believe you, we believe her, is that justice, Vanessa?
Well, probably not justice. But I think what this movement is saying is, I think what this is starting to say is that, I suppose they believe her, but I think it's also to say, we have your back. So if you are a victim, come forward, because we are here. We have, it's just what it is. We have your back.
Yeah.
I think that's what's going on here.
And the sense is that, and she predicted, this would happen, or she predicted what would happen effectively, didn't she?
Well, she did, but it seemed to me also that she was part of that scene, that she was used to being part of that, the clubbing and the drinking and the schools. Do you know this whole
the rugby thing?
I know I mean, imagine it's like here. It's a very close community around schools and nightclubs, like the social. I mean, she was 19, so she was only just finished school. So they all grow up together. Do you know?
Well, there's a big difference between 19 and 26. Massive. Like, she's just out of school. So, like, they're international. Can you imagine? Like, they've been away, they've done stuff. She just repeated the equivalent of the Leaving Cert. So, there is a serious innocence, and she was probably overall, she knew who they were, didn't know the situation she was going to. That was, that seems to be, no one should be judged on that. And like, I don't know, you had to have really been in the court, as I say, to actually just get how they said it and what they said and how they said it, their physical reaction to stuff, and but the question is massive now. It really is that how can people just start respecting themselves and each other? That's just basically what it comes down to. And I don't think the IRFU are into having a conversation like that. Maybe
but they're having an investigation. But actually,
that should be part of the investigation.
The Scottish rugby crowd have done something about this. I get it, Nathan.
Like, they're talking about building character. I think this is the essence of character. So,
well, that's a parent's job as well, Johnny.
Hello, Luke. Luke is joining us from Portugal. Luke Brennan. Hello, Luke.
Hello, guys. Good to see you. Hope everyone's well. Nice to.
Luke will have all the answers now. Give him all the hard questions, John.
Luke, will you put your earphones in, Luke?
Yeah, I have got my earphones in.
Oh, okay.
And you can hear me okay, yeah?
The sound is a little off.
Okay. Is that better?
No, it sounds for you, Luke. It sounds very very echoey.
Okay.
You usually have fantastic sound.
Yeah. No, that's.
That's
not changing.
1, 2, 2.
Vanessa, let's have a look at that. That's a Scottish.
The Scottish rugby have put together these campaigns, these posters. Now, don't ask me who the player is, please.
Right, you probably just a model.
Oh, is he? Right.
Possibly, I don't know.
He's not The Rock, anyway. I'm the kind of guy who doesn't have sex with a girl when she's drunk. Are you? So they have a whole range of these posters. It's a campaign.
Okay, say that again. I'm the kind of guy
who doesn't have sex with the girl when she's drunk, when she's too drunk. Sorry.
Okay. Strange. Yeah. So this is putting it back onto them and just look after these women. Don't take advantage when you.
Well, why does you have to be in rugby club to make that statement?
Well, that's actually a fair point, John. But at least
paid for by the Scottish rugby people.
Yeah, they've just put out this message, and like you've heard me say before, water only flows one way. It just has to be a movement and keep going. It's like these campaigns and these rallies. I think that they may, after the verdict yesterday, anybody would say, why would anyone come forward and report a rape and see it through the court? This type of campaign that's picking up in Dublin and Cork and Galway and Derry, Belfast, Limerick.
Kilkenny.
This is I'm sure there is. Johnny, I'm not on top of it all. It's saying to all rape victims, come forward. We are here. We have your back. Because the worst outcome yesterday was that people would be too scared to come forward.
Do men have any role in this at all, Vanessa, in terms of, But
they can be victims as well.
Yeah, and we're also not, like Johnny, I don't think is like WhatsApping with his friends on Monday morning. And, I don't think Luke, I'd be hard to find personally among my own friends who are anybody like that, anybody like that, who's at this level, who is at that level. Basically what I'm saying is this a campaign for us, or is it just is something that?
Sorry, Luke.
Sorry, is the sound okay now? Is that?
It's very high. It's very strange, Luke.
It's audible.
Is it all right?
It's fine. Yeah, we can hear you.
No, it's grand, Luke.
Yeah, we can hear you. Just speak up if you can, Johnny. Or Luke, if you can come closer to the computer.
Yeah, I will, of course, yeah. So I was just saying that, the guys involved in this, they're in their early 20s, it's, I suppose that's part of it as well, that, the sort of the behavior that, has to be corrected early, that's, and, same thing with the rugby and whatever like that. I suppose it's aiming at that younger group that's maybe not educated young enough as to sort of how they should behave, that they have a responsibility for other people, and all that sort of thing. You know, I suppose that's part of it.
Yeah. We'll sort out that sound, John, Luke. Luke, I'm meant to ask you, how are things going in Portugal? Luke emigrated after Christmas to Porto. And how are things there now, Luke?
Pretty good. I'm just back from, I was at there's a local group of like filmmakers and actors that sort of have come together here locally, meeting up once a month. And I was down there, it was my second time going to that meeting, and really nice bunch of people. And like Porto seems to be like, it has a sort of nice, you know, sort of creative sort of flame underneath it. And it's sort of, you know, I was talking to actually like another guy during the week, and he was saying that there's a sort of an effervescence to Porto. It's sort of like creatively, it's you know, something's happening here, and you know, that's nice to be around. It's like I can, well, the guy I was talking to during the week, he was a potter, and I was saying, you know, just, I mean, from my mother being over here, she gave him the demonstration. I met a few potters then, and I've found potters everywhere around here, and it's really nice that, and like, to be honest, part of it is that you know, I think people are less sort of focused on commerce and, you know, commercialism, partially because they don't have as much money, you know, and it's a funny irony that like having less money makes people nicer and less interested in, you know, the sort of the things that aren't so important, and it pushes on all the positive things like, you know, pottery and filmmaking or whatever. The guy talking there tonight, he's you know, just finished making a film on his phone, and you can do that wherever you are in the world, you know.
Yeah. Something actually that during the austerity years in Ireland, a lot of nice people coming out of the woodwork, a lot of that sort of activity, and that's kind of died down a little bit now in the last year since the economy has grown and you know, jobs are more plentiful. Luke, I'll just come back to you again. Vanessa, I don't know if anything's gone on in the mosh pit, anything that we should be directed towards.
No, there seems to be just some kind of couple of gags about some sex education training on YouTube to do with tea or something.
Oh, okay.
There's a bit of a general discussion about the case, all right.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be reading it out. There's no questions in anyway.
Okay. Well, if there's
there's a great turnout in the top chat pit this evening. Great. Anyway, so hi everybody.
Hello everybody. I'm sure you're all wondering.
Throw in the questions. I am monitoring it. Ish.
Yeah, you might.
First answer to the questions I'm taking. Okay. Sorry.
Okay. Also, my kidney stones. We're nearly there with them. We're about. There's a couple left. And
did you keep any, John? Did you keep any?
I didn't keep them as keepsakes, but the last one maybe.
Did you? I had kidney stones. I was in hospital with kidney stones before.
Luke, yeah, I got them.
Yeah. John is tougher than that. He's dealing with it on his own.
Well, no, I actually ended up in the A&E about 2 weeks ago, but they're pretty intense, aren't they, Luke?
Yeah, no, like I actually started to vomit with the pain, and that was it was. Yeah. I didn't know what was going on. I thought, like, you know, I thought it was it, really, you know. Horrible whole thing.
Yeah, it's unreal. It's you think it's curtains, and you know, genuinely, because you feel, well, there couldn't be even. You couldn't personally experience more pain. So
I was curled up in a ball, and now down to Vincent's with me, and they performed that operation where they go into a point that wouldn't want them going in, to put a little bit of.
Look at Johnny's face there, lads. Stop it. Johnny is getting greener and greener and greener.
My worst fear.
Scraping away inside me for 3 months.
Get the fuck.
Yeah. I think I just avoided that. That up. I mean, but I'm.
You could not. We're not under anaesthetic for that, Luke.
I was, yeah. But the difficult bit was they have to leave it in. They have to, the little stint, the little straw. They have to leave that in there so that the stones can pass. So you're kind of walking around with 3 months with this little straw inside you, and it sort of scrapes the side of your kidney as you walk down.
Yeah, I didn't go for the straw. I didn't even know it.
It knows an option. Yeah.
But
did you keep your stones then, Luke? Did you?
No,
I thought you would tell me your mother blended them down and turned them into something for you.
Didn't bring them to the craft day.
So how many stones did you pass then, Luke?
Well, you see, what happens is that they get blasted as well.
They dissolve.
So it turns to dust.
Yeah. So yeah.
And John, how many have you passed so far?
Well, they dissolve. So when you're passing them, you don't know whether that's the one, the last one or the second last one. I think I'm down to the last 2.
Yeah.
And
can you feel them in your,
Oh, it's
they're
constant.
like lumps.
Yeah, no, it's been constant. It's been like as I said, it's like being kneading the balls repeatedly for over a 4-week period.
Yeah.
By an invisible stranger who has no compassion.
I think when you're doing this slot tomorrow, John, when you put up the reports and you say, 14 minutes to 18 minutes or something, I think you're going to have to put a health warning here. No, lads.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't need to mention it.
No, but even the thought of it, you actually nearly get a pain in your stomach even thinking about it. And I haven't gone through what you've gone through. Lads, respect, soldiers.
Well, it's an information
of density.
Yeah. I mean, it is
I hope I never have to go through that.
It's a memento mori. It really is. It's like predicted. You feel your own death. I don't know, you feel like the soul is leaving your body. It's so painful.
Oh God! And the Pope is coming now. The Papa is coming, so he might turn you into a martyr. He might turn you into a martyr or something, John.
I know,
a stig martyr.
The stig. I'll be the stig.
The straw martyr.
The Pope's visit. I was very surprised to see that Nora Casey has got the collecting tin out. They've raised apparently half of the 20 million they need to get the Pope here.
Yeah, and they're still collecting. They were going to take it back from the church gate collection or the back of the church. They're going to leave it there for the next week. So basically, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are fucked. They can't have their church gate collections now.
So that might delay an election then, will it? I don't know.
Hang on a second. People have given them 10 million in collection boxes at churches.
Well, Nora Casey was on the Brendan O'Connor's Cutting Edge last night, and she's one of the fundraisers. She's Nora Casey was a dragon.
Yeah, I know who told me. She's publishers.
She wasn't literally a dragon. She was in the Dragon's Den.
Mm. No. Sorry, I got what you meant by a dragon.
And but people didn't know that she was quite a Catholic, I guess. And now she's the main fundraiser. She's the main fundraiser for the papal visit, for the Pope's visit.
She's a bit of a nerve.
Which is going to cost 20 million. And
no, she had
they've already raised $500,000.
They've raised half a million.
10.
Or half that. Sorry, 10 million.
10 million.
From Churchgate, from poor devils going in and out of the church.
From apparently a couple of million from that, and then others from your granny's.
Well, Nora probably threw in a couple of million herself, did she? Did she match it?
No.
When she announced it the first time, she was wearing a beautiful, almost diamond-crusted crucifix. When she was saying that when she was talking to Claire
Byrne.
Claire Byrne, yeah, I think she was on Claire Byrne, so saying that she's going to be canvassing for her. But when she was on the Cutting Edge show, she wasn't wearing the crucifix. So, maybe she wasn't on duty or something for it.
Well,
maybe she's
maybe
just
maybe she's donated it to the church.
Well, can I just say something about Cutting Edge there as well? Like, Cutting Edge was on last night, but it was recorded for Tuesday. Now I'm thinking, was it recorded on Tuesday because they could avoid talking about the Belfast trial? How cutting edge was that like?
Well, yeah, okay. Well, it's another show, Johnny. I didn't actually see. I only saw that clip with Nora Casey.
Yeah.
So just to get back onto that, the Pope's visit, it's going to cost 20 million. I don't know how much he pockets of that. I don't know how much he trousers.
I think it's absolutely
who's on the lineup?
outrageous.
Is it just the Pope? Like, is he just
Snow Patrol?
No, like, you know, at least the first time when John Paul came, you know, at least you had the singing priest, Cleary, and the other fella,
Casey and Cleary, the double act.
and Joe Duffy.
Yeah.
They had the whole world in their hands.
Just to go back,
maybe Dana.
Just to go back, that they don't have to.
But he's taking that money out of the country.
Well, that's what Garth Brooks does. The Rolling Stones do.
It's a gig, baby, rock and roll.
This is
Yeah, but they don't have the collection plate outside the church. They barely, you know, people are, you know, hand to mouth, and they're asking them for money. Nora fucking find the money herself amongst her friends.
Well, I think that's probably what she's doing on the side as well. I mean, she's putting the squeeze on rich Catholics in our, you know, rich devout Catholics in Ireland.
Well, the mosh pit want to know exactly how much has Nora donated herself from her own pocket.
Well, if she was able to sell that diamond encrusted crucifix she was wearing, I think she get a few bob for that.
Well, I think,
but like, how dare she go on the public airways and say she wants your money? How much is she putting in herself?
She's a joke.
No, hang on. No, she's a fundraiser. Like, this is.
Yeah.
So is she collecting commission then?
I don't know. I shouldn't think so. This is a religious. This is a.
I'd say, as an entrepreneur dragon, she probably sees very good potential that investing in the Catholic Church, your time might transfer into a nice little wager down the line. So I say that's where Nora's coming from. I'm not sure
Johnny, you realise she's not a. There's no like dragons are fictitious creatures. They're not. They don't.
Really?
Well,
Howard Marsh told me he met dragons.
Hello, Olga. 1 second, Luke. The Pope's visit. The Pope's visit is going to be 20 million. Cheap at half the price, no?
Well, you know.
No.
I remember just about I have fond memories of, you know, one of my earliest memories is of the old Pope coming, and that was very exciting. And it's amazing how things have changed, you know. You know, I suppose if we take it as a chance to sort of look at who we are and look at, you know, sort of why we would or wouldn't want Catholicism in our life, I think that's a you know, there's money well spent if we do some sort of soul searching, you know, sort of along with the sort of going to come along. And I think it will, to some extent, be a sort of test of how people feel, you know, in a modern Ireland about Catholicism and, you know, religion generally. You know, obviously it's changed a lot. There's been all, you know, there's been all sorts, but I think, you know, I mean, he seems like a decent fella, but at the same time, I think the problem was with the church rather than him.
Well, the thing that struck me was Nora Casey was saying that, like, you know, the whole world will be watching us. 1 billion people will be, you know, all eyes will be on Ireland. And somebody in the comments was quite rightly just said, "Look, I don't know where the Pope was last week.
Where was he last week?
Where's he now? I mean." And he apparently, he's this year he's been to Chile, Venezuela, and all this, and all these exciting places. And
Burma, he didn't say what was expected of him.
Myanmar, please. Yeah, but the
it doesn't matter. But I think, you know, Catholicism matters. Like Ireland, Irish people and their relationship with Catholicism is a very important sort of thing to resolve, I think, you know.
Yeah, but I think to include Brand Ireland or Ireland Inc.
Yeah, it's just,
you know, this is going to bring in more tourists and all this kind of.
Yeah, but it is all about money.
I mean, like, you know, the sort of the Catholic sort of audience is a big one, and maybe it probably does get Ireland in the papers and worldwide, and there are obviously it's a reminder that like Ireland's a Catholic country, and so it probably is a bit of PR, and it probably is worth a few quid, but like that's the cost and the benefit is not really all that relevant or interesting relative to like sort of us getting the chance to sort of look at do we need Catholicism in our life, sort of what are the things that have happened, what's the right and wrong of it, and are there things we want to change. I think it gives us a chance to look at that and do that. Yeah. I don't think people will be sort of happy clappy about the visit, and I think rightly so, and I think that that will make us sort of look at why that is.
Maybe some counter demonstrations, like seeking financial redress for the victims of.
Yeah, I would think so. I would hope so. I would hope that this will give a sort of a focus point, and that's effectively what I'm saying, a focus point for all that is wrong that has happened, and get us a chance to really sort of get that into sort of clear view. I think that's more important than the sort of the money, which is a bit of a sideshow.
Yeah, just want to welcome Olga, who's just joined us from a shift in town. Olga, your mic is off. Are you there, Mike?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep. Just wanted to, are we going through tomorrow's papers, or?
I was just about to put them up. Yeah, okay. We just had the Examiner, and I just put up the British ones as well.
Okay. Could you just briefly share that? I need to see a man about a kidney stone. I'll be back in.
Save it for us this time, Johnny.
Okay, I will. But if if you can share the cover of the Examiner tomorrow.
Yeah. Just like take this time to upload. The front page. Just as I'm waiting to try for it to load. The splash on the Examiner is about the homeless crisis. And what Leo Varadkar said today at an Oireachtas committee, he said he's conceded that it's a national emergency. Many months after, I think people who've been working on the ground have been calling it an emergency, a national emergency. And there are pictures there as well of from the protest, the protest over. I suppose the Me Too, I suppose to call it. Sorry, now just 2 seconds. I'll just put them up so you can see.
I had some of there as well. I had the one from Cork.
But calling it a national emergency, that's fairly serious, Olga, isn't it?
Well, it should be.
Yeah, exactly. But I think Coveney came short on that. That's what they were looking for him to acknowledge, that it was an emergency. When Apollo House had brought them, and he stopped short of that. So if he says an emergency, that means like it's treated as an emergency, that things have to be done in the immediate term.
It's half the problem, isn't it, Johnny? That sort of it's how things are measured and recorded, who's doing the measuring and recording, and sort of what the spin is on that actually sort of determines how people react to it. So like there seems to be that's one of the problems of the sort of the spin group and all that, that things like this that should be treated like an emergency don't get the right attention if a particular slant that isn't reality is put on it.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. I think we need to stop calling it an emergency.
No, we haven't started, so it's important. It's like calling it a code red for the snow. Sorry, Vanessa, I'm not cutting across you, but if you call code red,
I don't know what I was going to say. So
and it has to be called an emergency because then something be done with it. If it's called cold red in the snow, that means
what happens is when it's the emergency title is put on it, a temporary setup and a temporary budget is created, and a temporary building or a temporary floor is rented, and all these people are seconded in temporarily, and they're given a single one-off budget. This has to be maintained. We need a national building programme that needs to be top-loaded for the next 10 years.
Yeah. Well,
and then pinned down to meet the needs of the people, as the population changes with each census. We have an accommodation crisis because we have not built homes. People say affordable homes. We have not built homes in areas that already have infrastructure, like schools, hospitals, transport links. So during the Celtic Tiger, pre that, we built these massive new townslands areas without even a bus stop. So you're paying catch up on all that, while then the accommodation crisis is getting worse.
Well, it's interesting. That's a good distinction. You've got the accommodation crisis, and you've also got the homeless crisis. And one is part of the other, but they're not necessarily the same thing. I've always felt that name, like talking about sort of, saying someone's homeless is actually like a really bad description of what their actual problem is. It's a deeper social problem that's actually shared amongst all of us. That these people aren't being catered for. I mean, that's sort of, and to call it homelessness sort of makes it about that person, whereas really, like, I think it's a sort of a bit of a sickness in our society as opposed to the person.
Mm.
And I suppose him calling it a national emergency ahead of the march next week on April 7th, I think probably helps them almost in a way, because if it didn't, I don't know how many people are going to march next Saturday, but
I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be
big.
huge. I'll be honest.
Okay.
I'd be delighted if it is. But I think something has overturned that now. I think the We Believer campaign, or reports rape, that's going to take over now in the run up to the referendum as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to just going back to the trial and the judges summing up. Can I just quote from this? Would you mind? Consent has a particular legal meaning, the judge said. A woman consents if she agrees by choice and has the sense and capacity to agree by choice. Consent is different to submission. Consent can be given even with reluctance, but when a woman is so overwhelmed by fear that she does not resist, that is not consent. The female judge, the prosecution does not have to prove she fought back or what she said she did not consent. The third ingredient in the charge, Mr. Jackson's belief as to consent, is an entirely separate question and relates to his state of mind at the time. The judge said if he believed she consented, and if that was a reasonable belief, the jury must acquit. If the jury finds a rape did not occur, they must acquit Mr. Harrison on this charge. The morals of any person involved in this trial are completely irrelevant. So I just wanted to put that in because, it's the judges summing up. So, sorry, Olga?
Yeah, so I suppose the judge was, I think when I was reading it and stuff before the jury made the decision, I thought it was significant that the judge had said, if you think that he thought that she was consenting, basically, then you kind of can't convict him. So I thought that was significant because, and the bit that when she said that even if she was reluctant, that doesn't mean she wasn't giving consent. So I thought that was quite pivotal. But I also think that the witness, Dara Florence, who went in and said that she saw a threesome as opposed to a rape, was a huge factor.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting that the inconsistencies were on, from what I read, and obviously, short of a transcript or being there, you're only privy to what you've been told. But I thought it was interesting that the inconsistencies appeared to be on their side, not hers. But her direction was her direction. The judge's direction.
Before you came in there, I was saying to the lads about this was, I actually think she should have had her own representation as well. She should have had senior counsel at least.
I agree.
Like she had no representation. Even if she was considering a civil case, you'd think they'd be there with her anyway, preparing her.
Yeah, can I just move this on a little bit?
Vanessa, I just want to get back to what you were saying. You seem to bring in the Eighth Amendment into this. I mean, something you mentioned. You said that the "We Believe Her" will feed into.
Yeah, I think it's all going to morph in, and the homeless march is going to get sidelined. I think actually, if the organisers of the homeless march really want to get their message out there, they should actually join this one, and it all become one, because it's all about rights. It's all about justice. It's all about fair play.
I suppose the march for the homeless, though, it's not so much homelessness as well as just housing. I mean, you'll have people who are just broke from paying rent in Dublin, like people who are working decent jobs, but just are terrified of when their landlord's going to say, okay, you got to go, we're moving back in, or we're selling the house, or whichever. And so,
yeah, it's an accommodation crisis.
Simon Coveney today was saying that he was playing around with some figures, homeless figures, that seem to suggest things are not as bad as they are.
Yeah, he was saying that the number of people who are sleeping rough, sorry, I don't say rough sleeper, but the number of people who are sleeping rough is down 50%. And he was basing this, this is what Owen Murphy said yesterday when they released their homeless figures. I actually messaged Anthony Flynn from the Inner City Helping Homeless Group, and he just said, it's not true. And I just was kind of stunned when I read that, because I just thought, well, that is not what we've heard, continuously from people who are out on the street. And basically, just for people who know, or for people to know, like the rough sleeper count, if you like, it happens once a year, if not twice a year. I think it's just once a year, and they pick a date, and all these volunteers come together, and they walk around the city, and they literally just count the people that they meet in the street and find in the street. And it was just interesting that Owen Murphy made the claim yesterday, even though the figures hadn't been verified, and he said that, and then Simon Coveney presented it as fact in the Dáil today. So, we'll have to wait and see what. I'm not sure. Perhaps the figure even has come out in the last few hours, and I'm just not aware of it. But I struggle to believe that the figure has dropped 50%. I mean, we've seen more people in tents than we've seen, ever before. So
that was kind of the point I was making earlier to Johnny. That it's how these things are measured and how they're spun is actually, in terms of they're going to get through to us. Like that's as damaging.
And do you know what, Luke? It suits them all to be confused by different sets of numbers. Oh, but this includes children, but this one doesn't include children. This includes families. This includes the people that are on the housing list, but they're actually living with family. This includes people that are in HAP housing, and so they're not on the housing list. And that suits the confusion, because then nobody knows. It's like mortgage arrears. You don't know the number at all. Nobody knows the number, because nobody's decided are you classed as in arrears at 3 months, 6 months, a year? And all the banks have different tactics for reporting it. Yeah.
But also,
so it suits them to have a number that's actually nobody knows.
What's that, Olga?
Also, in regards to the rough sleeper count, Anthony Flynn has said that they were never invited to take part in that. And I actually took part in a rough sleeper count years ago with Dublin Simon, and was doing a sleep run for a while. But I found that odd, because, again, that if they weren't invited, which is what Anthony Flynn has said, you would think that they would involve every group that goes out every night. Now, there were obviously other charities involved, but I thought that was interesting that they weren't included.
They're just basing the figures on Anthony's group, the Inner City.
No. Anthony wasn't invited to the rough sleeper count, so they couldn't bring their expertise to people to go looking for people. Like obviously people will go. They're not going to. Obviously, there are people who are obviously sleeping on the street. You can see them, and it's in a very public place. But people are sleeping in places that aren't very public, and it seems to me like people like Anthony Flynn, Inner City Helping Homeless, probably all of the groups would have their own kind of route. You know where to go. You make relationships, so you go back to them every night, or you go back to them once a week, or whatever, and you keep in contact. So I just thought it was odd that they weren't invited to that. given their expertise and given their work that they do, and we all know they do.
Guard policy as well. If guards decide that they're not, moving people on in a certain way or moving in certain places, if people who don't know where to look, then that could account for like.
Can I ask? Olga, if somebody is a rough sleeper, do they have a certain, like a special medical card or social welfare allowance, or
well, I think
if they've no fixed abode or something? Is that one way of trapping the numbers?
That was a case. I remember when I was doing the super run, that was an issue because people didn't have a fixed abode, so they really couldn't get much at all, So, so they couldn't get the card, they couldn't get the documentation, and obviously, if you're in that vulnerable situation, getting all that together is extremely difficult. So it's difficult enough just to get on the dole, someone who's living in a house.
But you're relying. They're relying on different groups to go out and count people in doorways and in tents along the canal. Why not just, as everyone, have put the reach out there to tell them, come into City Hall, come into this parish church, or come into this community centre and register as homeless, and then they'll have an idea of meet a counsellor or a social worker and have a chat about your situation. And maybe is that a way of getting the numbers accurate?
I suppose. Well, my understanding whenever I did it with the super run, the purpose of the super run really was, of course, to give soup and everything like that and check in, but also to say, look, if you're interested, you can kind of, get involved in services. But obviously, a lot of people would be like, I don't want to get involved in that. I have no interest in that. I'll take the soup, and that's it, and that's their prerogative. But I think that happens anyway, Vanessa. But I mean, I think to ask every single homeless person in Dublin or wherever to come to City Hall on a particular night, I mean, the communication.
Oh no, I mean over a period of whatever, and they.
Johnny,
there's no answer really, is there?
Johnny, just on the homeless thing,
it
seems that in terms of spin, they're not even really bothering with kind of any polished kind of spin. I understand from their internal polling that homelessness is not a priority among their potential voters.
No, absolutely not. But I said it when we were in the snow, that the amount of homeless people that are in the city that night are not that many, because they've all taken refuge in the community centres. So there must be some kind of contact with the large amount of homeless people in Dublin as recent as a few weeks ago. Would that not be fair to say? So it's not the most outrageous thing to think that you might be able to get these guys to give us their details on how they want to get housing. I think. But the numbers are there.
They have to have some form of solid identity and contact details, if they are looking for housing anyway. But I mean, Johnny's made a very good point there about during the snowstorm. I mean, most were in makeshift emergency housing for the night, these big tents in community centres. I mean, they were able to collect numbers then, and then say there was 20% or 30% somewhere else. I mean, at least they had a number that they could count. They could actually do a head count.
Yeah, but the numbers are kind of fairly consistent anyway, aren't they? From what Olga's saying there about Anthony Flynn and his work organisation. Like, why wouldn't they be brought in if they're doing most of the work? It seems to be homeless in this country seems to come down to a few of the recognised charities, and most of them are doing great work. But when I hear Father McFerrity saying that he can't solve the homeless situation, that was 2 years ago. It's like, why is everything being directed in relation to this is the organisation that's going to fix it if they've kind of given up? And that's his words, not mine. I'm just reiterating them. So there is actually some serious amount of volunteers and homeless organisations that have these stats, and why they're kind of, once again, excuse my metaphor, but being left out in the cold, when the serious negotiation or organisation of homeless people to get houses, it's not going to be solved overnight, but this is another stalling tactic by Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael, thinking that they're smoke screen saying we're doing something, but in actual fact they're not, because as you say, John, it's not in their interest.
No.
These people aren't going to vote for Fine Gael. In actual fact, if you gave them a helping hand, they'd probably vote the opposite of Fine Gael, and that's the problem.
And a lot
For
of
them, for Fine Gael, though. Yeah.
Sorry, John. I think we also need to identify there are people that sleep on the streets, and there are those that are looking for family homes or rented homes. There's always been people that slept on the streets for whatever reasons. Loads of different.
We know that, Vanessa. I mean, that's what Fine Gael is. There's always people sleep in the streets. We know that. We know there's a hardcore kind of element of people who actually
when your family's sleeping in their car.
Well, I wouldn't call them hardcore. I would just, there's a section of that population that's the way they choose to live, and that's I'm not going to get involved in that. But
we're not talking about them right now.
Generally, the whole homeless, the number is impossible to address. Need to focus on actually providing the housing stock. The stock isn't there, so the population is getting bigger, and the stock still isn't moving.
Yeah,
there's only one way it's going. So there is only one answer. They're the fucking things.
Yeah, but
stop counting.
But Vanessa, your friends don't want to build because there's not a profit in it for them.
It goes back to the banks and the vulture capitalists again. They own it. And hello, the elitists, the corporates that some people can afford when it comes to court cases, and other people can't. It's the haves and have-nots. That's
Johnny,
the
1 second. Johnny, sorry, I have to interrupt you. I've just put up the Times Ireland edition, Olga.
Okay.
I don't know if you can share that. Can you share that?
Well, yeah, I was just going to say one thing though, John. When you said there about the voters, it's not like maybe perhaps they don't see it as a voting issue. I thought it was interesting. Dr. Rory Hearn, his piece there earlier in the week, where he outlined that the Eurobarometer surveys. Okay, this is going back to figures and stats to, I suppose, support an argument, but he showed, or he quoted the December 2017 Eurobarometer survey, which showed that housing was actually the most important issue for 57% of Irish people, which was quite significant because I think a number of years ago it was only 4%. So perhaps Leo is starting to think that, maybe this is something that he has to.
I think it's Dr.
But I'm pretty sure it's their internal polling is telling them, no problem. This is not of concern. This is a trolley issue. This is like it'll be forgotten in the flotsam, the jetsam. But I keep on hearing that this election will be about housing, but I don't feel that from either side that it's a potent enough.
It will be about housing, Jim. It was like the Bertie Ahern election in 2007 was about childcare.
Well, okay.
And we got the €1,000. It will be, the next election it'll be won or lost on housing.
Okay. Well, the homelessness now is a national emergency, admits Varadkar, is one of the headlines in the Times Ireland edition. I don't know if you can share that.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I was just trying to do it there now. It's my computer just...
How was the shift anyway, Olga?
It's great.
Oh, John, did you pass anything there when you were out that time?
No. There's so many false stones.
Luke will tell you.
False stones.
So you won't be going to the Rolling Stones this year, John?
The dissolving.
Well, if the organisers want us to go and broadcast from, I don't know if they're on Stones now, but maybe Snow Patrol. We could do a box pop. So if anybody wants us to go and
or down to the picnic.
Plug.
Yeah, anybody wants to have our own little stage at the picnic, we'd be happy to.
Yeah, I've got a tent.
We'd be happy to accommodate.
We'll have
Sorry,
to
Luke.
chat with management.
The person who complained to the Lord Chief Justice Office about Shayna, by the way, was the Irish Times. Thanks, Irish Times.
Oh,
yes.
God. They got a snot on, did they?
Yeah, well, that's a permanent snot, that Irish Times snot, the Lear Street, the Tara Street snot.
So it was the Irish Times contacted the Chancellor's office in London, I suppose, is it?
The Lord Chief Justice Office, I don't know.
Chief Justice.
It's probably a Belfast wing, but Shane anyway was said that they had contacted, and he said, "Who called you?" And he said, "Oh, the Irish Times."
The Irish Times. Oh God, bless.
Bless. Yeah, I'll go. Sorry.
There's the Times Ireland edition. So at the top, homelessness is now a national emergency. So like we were saying, that's what Barker said in the Oireachtas committee today. So he's pledged now to pay a lot more attention, is the quote there from Jennifer Bray and Michael Cugley, to the housing and homeless crisis, as he admitted that the situation was a national emergency.
He's going to wear special homeless socks. They're little, they're socks with holes.
They've holes in them.
They're great fun though. They're brilliant. I love his socks. They just make me, I don't know, warm and fuzzy.
But yeah, so like you know, I think you probably already mentioned. We talked about already that the most recent homeless figures shows that nearly 10,000 people now homeless, 3,755 children, and yeah. So
this is what we were talking about the rape trial.
Oh yes, sorry. The rape trial will have a chill factor on victims. So that's by Alan Coyne, Aaron Rogan, and so the picture there is that's down in Cork. It's one of the rallies that took place down there today. But the story, so they're saying the Belfast rape trial will have a chill factor for victims who are considering coming forward. Simon Coveney said in the Dáil today. The Taoiseach moved to reassure any rape complainants in the Republic that cases in Irish courts would not and could not have played out the same way as the trial for Paddy Jackson and Stuart Olding. I suppose that's the thing. Like, I mean, I wasn't aware of the differences in such trials between Ireland and the North, but I did think it was interesting that the woman's name was mentioned throughout the trial, and obviously it wasn't reported, but it was mentioned throughout the trial, and obviously members of the public could come in. So obviously loads of people know, I mean, loads and loads of people know who she is. And I think one of the journalists actually who was on RTE yesterday lunchtime on the radio was saying how when he was in Belfast, just kind of around the city, and he met people, he met people who said, "Oh yeah, I know her family, I know, you know."
Yeah, yeah.
So, and obviously that wouldn't happen here. So,
well, not so obviously.
Not so now, anyway.
Not now, yeah. So that's Coveney. But he did say that there is a chill factor that comes from the coverage we have seen of the trial we witnessed in recent weeks. As policymakers, we need to respond to that and make sure there is an appropriate response here. But we also need to point out that this is a different jurisdiction from the North, and we need to be careful that we do not draw parallels between the two court systems. That's that.
In other news, the Pope has said that hell does not exist.
Hell, it turns out, is not a fiery pit of eternal damnation. Neither does it involve varieties of extreme torment. Rather, the punishment for sinners upon death is simply that they disappear.
Oh.
Yeah, so this is.
We have to assemble our own furniture, I guess, as well. So.
Yeah, come here, Olga. What are you searching for there? Your look, Vegas is up on your ad. We're going to Vegas.
Are we?
Oh, no,
is it? I can't see what you're. I can't. There's no. Oh, there is too. Actually, yeah. Well.
I usually get the Russian bridal.
Go to Vegas with her. So.
What ones do you get, John?
I get the Russian bridal. Available brides.
I get posh handbags.
And that's and the photograph on the cover of the Times Ireland edition is from today's demonstration.
Demonstration in Cork, yeah.
Oh, in Cork, is it? Okay.
That's in Cork, yeah.
There's an interview with Donal Ryan, the author, in tomorrow's The Times Ireland edition. We haven't got any other editions. We asked the Irish Times, as you know, the Indo. We asked all these papers to send us their covers.
Well, why don't you make an arrangement with the Times, and next time you get someone like the foreperson of the biggest trial so far this year available to Broadsheet, why don't you make them available to the Irish Times? You could be the conduit.
They're kind of like the SWATs or something. They're complaining all the time about everybody, you know.
Can you see the examiner there, folks? Bottom right, Fianna Fáil makes election moves.
Yeah, I'm just going to press it. You see,
Where's Mr. Mooney now? He giving out about the appointment of the leader in the Northern Assembly, and they've just nominated their own deputy leader there without any party vote.
Yeah, is this Dara Cleary has been made deputy leader of Fianna Fáil?
Deputy leader.
Who is he replaced?
He was blessed on by Mike and Micheál Martin.
But who?
It was Eamon O'Queen, John. But I think the position was kind of vacant for several years. No, Vanessa?
Yeah, it's been for quite some time. Yeah, but did you see the front bench there, the Fianna Fáil front bench? There's one woman.
That's right, Lisa Chambers. So she's been a spokesperson for Brexit. Barry Cowan will be
and the war.
Barry Cowan will be the spokesperson on public expenditure and reform. Darragh O'Brien, housing spokesperson.
Who's he?
Stephen Donnelly is on health.
Stephen Donnelly is in health. Niall Collins is foreign affairs and trade. Billy Kelleher is jobs and enterprise. And it's Jack Chambers, Johnny.
Here. Jesus Christ.
Jack Chambers is what? Minister? Or
Minister of Defence.
So,
okay, I think.
Do you know, lads? I tell you, Sinn Féin are shitting themselves with that crowd.
Yeah, but at least Fianna Fáil have a mammy.
Yeah, well,
she granted now.
What? I didn't get that, Johnny. Was that meant?
Mammy O'Rourke, she's always been wheeled out. Mammy O'Rourke, and the mammy of the doll, all this kind of shit. Mary O'Rourke.
Sorry, I'll get just on the Fianna Fáil front bench. We have Stephen Donnelly, Lisa Chambers, Jack Chambers, no relation. I think maybe they are related.
I don't think so.
Barry Cowan.
Yeah.
What's Barry Cowan?
It's on public expenditure and reform. Pascal O'Donoghue's old job.
Darragh O'Brien.
Darragh O'Brien is housing.
Yeah, we like that.
Do we? Oh, he's a bit of a. He's a good laugh. He's good for a laughy. Yeah.
He seems human. And then it's a glittering. Front bench, vintage.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the last sting of a dying wasp.
The last sting of it. The last sting of it. Where's Jim McCallaghan then?
Oh, he's staying in his own spot.
Yeah, so
Mike and McGrath, Jim O'Callaghan and Robert Troy remain in their positions. I think Troy is the whip, is their party whip, is he?
Is Dara Cleary a Jim O'Callaghan man, or is he more of a Micheál Martin man? Like, what's going on there?
I think he's a Cleary man.
That Jim O'Callaghan was going to go for the leadership.
I think. Okay, sorry, John. What did you say, Jim O'Callaghan?
Well, yeah, I'll tell you who'll be Jim O'Callaghan there now. It'll be Jack Chambers, Darragh O'Brien, Robert Troy, Stephen Donnelly, definitely.
He'd be a Jim man, would he, rather than a Micheál Martin?
He would, yeah.
Okay. So do you think, what do you think is at play there now?
They dropped at the last weekend, and sure, they're dead in the water. There's no news coming out of them at all. They're not making any impression. They're not having any great speeches being replayed in sound bites on the wireless or on the telly.
But what about Micheál Martin?
You don't see any front pages there. Look at all. Let me go back there to the pages. I mean, let's see how many FFers are on the front pages.
Well, I mean,
none.
That front bench reshuffle then. So who's in and out? I mean,
and that's on the Cork Examiner, right?
Yeah.
Micheál Martin's parish and 3 Cork fellas are mentioned in it. And they're getting the bottom left there over the barcode.
Okay. Well, it's the Irish Examiner now. You know that. It changed years ago, Vanessa.
From the Cork Examiner. Luke, are you keeping abreast of the local political scene here?
Yeah, well, thankfully, no. I'm really
No wonder you're looking so happy and healthy.
No, I'm enjoying just not knowing. It's great.
Good. I'll go. I was going to just go to you for the.
Oh yeah. Will I turn off the papers?
Yeah, if you can.
Yeah.
I just wanted to quickly.
Oh, there's what's he up for? What's he on the papers
Killer
for?
disease.
Who?
What's he?
Peter Kay.
Peter Kay. Oh, no. Look at your man crying there. Look, there's a fella. There's a sports fella there crying. He tampered with his balls and he's crying. Look.
Gaza.
No, Australia's cricket scandal ends in tears.
He's
Look at him. He's crying there again on the Telegraph.
But Vanessa, the viewers can't see what you're seeing, so it.
Oh, sorry, viewers. I'm reading the papers. Go to the Broadsheet newspapers.
Johnny, I was wondering.
Peter Kay.
Johnny, I was wondering if you could go to the mosh pit quickly and just see if there's any questions from the sweaty hordes. If you could just go crowd surfing a little.
No one asking about my availability anyway. Very frustrating.
Well, there's some Russian brides actually. I've got contact me after the show, Johnny. I've got some.
What's the Russian bride?
Hey! My wife looks at this on playback.
Oh, sorry.
No, I wouldn't be quick enough, man, to pick up on these questions, John. But I'm sure there's a lot of action going on, so fair play to them.
I'll get. There's a.
There's a good few in there. So, why don't you ask us questions? I'll answer any questions somebody wants to put to me.
Yeah, or the chase.
Anybody in the mosh pit want to ask Vanessa any questions? Any questions? Now's your chance.
Yeah.
I'll
your chance.
go. The Disclosures Tribunal returns on April the 9th.
Yeah.
And this is. Can you explain the module that we're about to hear?
Yes. So this module will be looking at basically media. This will be the media module, if you like, and it'll be looking at a lot of what we know. We know a lot about what we're going to hear. We know what John McGuinness is pretty much going to say, because what Morris has already given evidence as to what he told him, and he has confirmed it through his solicitor when Morris was up in the witness box. And so this is in relation to, if you remember, Martin Callan met John McGuinness in a car park in January 2014, and it was the day after he made the disgusting remark when he was in the PAC, the Public Accounts Committee.
Yep.
So we're basically going to hear an awful lot about what Martin Callan told people. We know that the Controller Auditor General, who is at every PAC meeting, is going to give evidence as to what Martin Callan said to him about Morris. We know that Philip Hayes from RTE is apparently going to give evidence as to what Martin Callan said to him about Morris.
Is that known, Olga, or is it going to?
Yeah,
will there be surprises or?
Oh no, there will undoubtedly, I'd say, be surprises. I feel like I'd say, or sorry, I think that Morris is finding out more and more stuff as it goes on, even like up until this week, you know. So, but it's going to be we're going to hear about reports within RTE about Morris, and perhaps, you know, how they were possibly pitched to RTE, or how they were given to RTE, and how they were reported. And so we know that there's going to be particular significance, or there's going to be an examination of Paul Reynolds' report in regards to the O'Higgins inquiry that was in 2016. But there's also going to be looking back to 2014, around the time when Callan did meet McGuinness at this car park in January 2014, and interview that Gerald Keane gave, or sorry, it wasn't an interview, he was on the Marion show on a Sunday around that time, and he had said stuff about Morris and John Wilson, saying that they didn't cooperate with the internal penalty points investigation completed the previous 2013. Sorry,
just,
am I going to?
No, just to go back. This is the celebrity solicitor Gerald Keane.
This is celebrity, yes.
Appeared on the Marion Finucane show to give and said that Morris and John Wilson had not cooperated with the O'Higgins Commission.
No, didn't cooperate with John O'Mahony. Sorry, John O'Mahony's report, internal report, Assistant John O'Mahony's report into the penalty points. And it's really interesting timeline, actually, because Alan Shatter, the Justice Minister in October 2013 said in the Dáil that that Morris and John Wilson, although he didn't name Morris, but the whistleblowers, he said, didn't cooperate with this inquiry, this internal inquiry. And remember, this internal inquiry found that there was no widespread abuse of penalty points, right? And so fast forward then to January, and Morris wanted to go to PAC. Callanan did not want him to go to PAC. He even went so far as to get advice from the Attorney General to try and prevent him from going to PAC. And we know that that's when he met McGuinness in the car park and said, you know, he can't be trusted, blah, blah, blah. This is what McGuinness says. Callanan denies it. And according to McGuinness, he said that Callanan said he abused his kids and his...
Yeah. Sorry, and just on the Gerald Keane then appearance on the Marion Finucane, was that before the appearance on PAC?
It was before Morris's appearance, but it was after Callan's appearance.
Yep.
And
was it before the car park meeting with McGuinness?
No, it was after the car park meeting.
Right.
Meeting, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so, John. Sorry. I know I keep getting mixed up with that, but it is. I think it was. Yeah, it was the Sunday.
Okay, and then there was a libel action that Morris took against RT.
Yes,
for what Gerald Keane said.
Yes.
And during that, the discovery part of that.
So obviously there have been discovery of documents and statements given in regards to that to the tribunal, and we understand that what will come out of that will be quite important in terms of Martin Callanan and Gerald Keane's contacts, or
before his appearance on Marion Finucane, the contacts between Martin Callanan and Gerald Keane,
yes,
and
possibly the contacts after between Callanan and Keane after Morris. So once the radio broadcast went out, Morris contacted Gerald Keane, and we understand then there was contact between Gerald Keane and Martin Callanan, and I guess we'll hear this. Gerald Keane is going to be a witness in the first week, and it goes back on April 9th.
Oh, we'll have to go down for that one.
Well, so effectively,
just anywhere in the city centre, you'll hear Gerald Keane.
So what?
I see him a lot during the summer, actually. Oh, did he sell his house? Maybe I won't be seeing him anymore.
Well, you probably won't be seeing him or hearing him on the Marion Finucane show for a long time. But I'll go on that.
But can I just say as well that
please.
But it's just important to say that Martin Callanan went before the PAC on January 23rd, and that's when he made the discussion remark. But not only did that happen, Assistant Commissioner John O'Mahony was there. Mary Lou MacDonald put to him in a question. Basically, I can't quote now, but essentially she asked him, "Did you contact Maurice McCabe during that investigation?" He said no. So it's bizarre that there was a report that Gerald Keane got away with saying that, even though it was on record in PAC that John O'Mahony never contacted Maurice. And then the thing is that Paul Reynolds then in February, if we fast forward to February, Paul Reynolds reported that, because this is the thing, once Shatter said it, there was a call for him to, to apologise and to correct the record, and this wasn't true. But then in February 24th, Paul Reynolds had a report in the afternoon, and it was further reported on by other reporters and the 6-1 News, and it was reporting that Martin Callanan had said that he had directed Morris and John Wilson to cooperate with this O'Mahony investigation. And the report, what Paul Reynolds and them reported was that in December 2012, he sent this chief superintendent down to both Morris and John at separate places and told them and gave them this direction. But that evening, Morris gave a statement to Katie Hannon on Primetime and a transcript of a recording of that meeting with the chief superintendent, which proved that this didn't take place.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you remember that. Like it's
of course.
And so that was really significant. And then maybe a month later, Alan Shatter apologised or at least corrected the record. And also, it wasn't long after that Callanan stepped down.
Yeah, and I don't want to kind of labour the Gerald Keane point, but this involves RTE and Marion Finucane's show, which is a very, very kind of controversial show. It's sort of like I mean, if you don't listen to it, it's just basically establishment having a cup of tea.
And you know what's really interesting about that as well is that there was another assistant commissioner on that panel at that time. So there was another senior guard on.
Yeah.
The radio. So I don't know why Gerald Keane.
Well, and what we're going to hear with it in the tribunal is that Gerald Keane was coached by Callanan.
That's my understanding.
He was coached by Callanan to put forward Callanan's point of view on the show. Yeah, where he was a regular guest.
Yeah, and
it's fairly devastating. It's fairly sort of devastating stuff, really, isn't it?
Devastating, but especially, as I said, it was on record that Omani never even contacted Mars during that investigation, so it should never have raised its head. But if you like I said, this was all in the midst of trying to stop Mars from going before PAC, and then you see, this is a lot of what we're going to hear in the next module is going to be about the penalty points, because a lot of it relates around all that time when Mars was trying to get the stuff out with the penalty points, and there was just a kind of wholesale shut it down. And then it's interesting that because after March 2014, after Shatter corrected the record after Callanan stood down, then we had the articles in the Irish Independent about Miss D's allegation by Paul Williams. So there was a new avenue, if you like.
Yeah.
Can I say that? And
they tried all that other stuff, and that didn't work. So this was a new.
Well, that's the timeline. So yeah.
God Almighty.
And then obviously then after O'Higgins, like 2 years later, then you had these. So there was 2 reports that Morris was very angry, upset with, and that was John Mooney from the Sunday Times had done a radio interview on Northern Sound, and then Paul Reynolds did this radio interview on RTE about the O'Higgins report, both of which he took action against.
Yeah, I didn't hear the Northern Sound interview, but was it similar to the...
Similar to it, yeah. I actually haven't heard it myself, John, but my understanding is that it was along the similar lines to Paul Reynolds.
When you look back on the people who stood by Martin Callanan, they really took a great risk with their own careers, didn't they? I mean,
yeah, but I suppose I suppose it was just the Garda Commissioner. I mean, who went after the Garda Commissioner? I mean, if you think of it, like when Gemma O'Doherty, the way she took she sued INM, and at the Employment Appeals Tribunal, when she took that case, like the tribunal heard that INM apologized to him after she went to that house. Like he wasn't there, she went to the house, she knocked at the door, she verified that was his address, and then left. And then INM apologized to Callanan after that. Apologized to Martin Callanan for doing her job.
Doing her job. Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. I mean, there's so many people like either lost their jobs or reputations now, and
that's the reason why people still buy the Irish Independent.
Well, I mean, Vanessa,
I don't know. Do people buy? I don't know. Listen, I don't know. Do people actually buy the Independent? Because every time I see it,
still vote Fine Gael. They still buy the Irish Independent. They still go to mass.
Yeah, it's a very progressive country. Sorry, John. What I'm saying is, every time I see the Irish Independent in stacks and it's in hotels or, in offices, it's free. I don't know anyone that actually buys it, that actually hands over their $2.50 for it or whatever it is.
Well,
anyway, that's just me. Can I go back to this thing of calling Gerard Keane the celebrity solicitor?
Well,
is he called that because he is a celebrity, or he is the solicitor to celebrities?
Well, I don't think it's on his card, but he's a solicitor who is a celebrity for being.
So can I now, from now on, John, when you're interviewing me, can I be the celebrity accountant?
Well, this is it. I was gonna say that.
You cooking Louis' books?
What?
You cooking Louis' books?
No, really.
Can I be the bankruptcy to the stars?
But it would be in the same racket. You know, you would be brought on for your professional advice, and you're considered.
What do you mean the racket? What do you mean racket?
No, but I think this could be the start of the establishment in relation to these guys being answerable anyway, because they've been paraded for years. On the Marion Finucane show, onto the FM, on News Talk, and there's no one else, and this is why a platform like this needs to exist, because
no matter how sloppy, it needs to exist. This needs to exist. This platform.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm still a celebrity, so just not don't be dissonant.
Vanessa, you are our celebrity accountant on the show.
Thank you.
And Johnny,
you're our celebrity patient.
The wife and kidneys. Is there any
other, like what's called that girl band there?
And Lukey's our celebrity. What's Lukey?
Are you talking to yourself, Johnny?
No, I was just trying to figure out. There's a band there. They've got a song. I'm basically the sound of the underground, like.
All right.
Oh, Girls Aloud.
That's the one, yeah.
Under the underground.
I'm Girls Aloud.
Yeah, your Girls Aloud.
Luke, how's
Luke is the celebrity shift worker.
Be careful, Luke. Any etchings from this week?
No, I haven't.
Oh, I meant to. Sorry, Vanessa, can I completely interrupt?
No, Luke.
It's grand. No, I've. Well, there's a bigger painting that I'm working on. I was working on last week, so there's actually no class this week, and I was doing my that's why I was doing the acting thing. But I think I may have inadvertently started up an improv group with the group that we met up with tonight, so that should be fun.
Great.
You know, I did a little bit of improv in Dublin. It's a lot of fun, and one of the other guys in the group, he's more the stand-up, but he's done some improv as well, and he's interested in maybe taking a class. And it's a nice thing because you don't need a lot of language to do improv, you know. So it's something, you know, that even people with basic Portuguese like me can do in Portuguese. You know?
That's great. Maybe invite Neil over.
Well, I was thinking that he'd be a great guy to even get some tips on how we should go about running classes and stuff like that.
Brilliant. So, Luke, we'll have a look at some of your etchings maybe next week or the week after that. Is there? It's now 11:50.
Luke, I was going to ask you about the club final and the drawn game.
Well done.
Well, I was back in Dublin for
great game.
Did you go to the two games?
Well, I went to the match in Croke Park.
The drawn game.
Let the man speak, Vanessa.
But it was brilliant. I mean, well, obviously the rugby was on, we won that, and then it was Patrick's Day, and then it snowed, and then like we had a draw that felt like a win. I mean, we were 3 points down with minus 1 minute to go, and we got a goal. It just. I mean, I thought it was gone, but then to come back the following week, so last weekend, and I was away with work, and one of my friends is an ex-Coola guy as well, and we got to watch the replay, and that was just an amazing match too. So I mean, it feels fantastic to.
Do you know? It was proper old-fashioned hurling, wasn't it?
It really was. I mean,
really old-fashioned hurling.
I think the tackling was more interesting than the scoring. That's a sign of a.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. It was proper old-fashioned hurling. None of this. Every time you touch a full forward, the whistle blows. You know. Come here. Do you know what I want particularly remarked as on the replay, and they had the pitch invasion, and they were doing the interview, and you know, in it they have the perspex sheet, and they're doing the interview, and they've all the fans, and I was saying the South Dublin guys can be every bit as muck savage as the Tipperary and the Kerry fellas, licking the clamoring and trying to get into it. No. So they're not all that grand out there in Dalkey. You're well able.
We have our own window lickers, Vanessa.
I was very surprised to see that many South Dubliners down the country at one time.
I know, and they were delighted with themselves, getting on the telly, like scrushing in and pushing each other out of the way.
Well, you know.
Well, that's great. Did you go back to the club with the cup, Lukey?
Well, no. I mean, I wasn't in Dublin.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you were here.
I was away, but I obviously heard from the guys. Whatever. It was. Yeah, it was brilliant. It was well celebrated. And, I mean, you know, to go from no Dublin club ever winning a hurling All Ireland to go like back to back winners.
Back to back, that's the big one, Luke. Yeah.
It's really impressive, you know.
Luke,
that happens at club level, though.
Sorry, Luke, continue.
No, I was just saying that like it's not just like you win it once, which is difficult, but then when you get out of like you actually get through into the quarterfinals, you have to win like 10 games in a row because you have to get through Dublin, then you have to get through Leinster, and then you have to go all the way to the final. So the consistency required is a mark of a really good team.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And,
but it's at club level, it's hard to get so many players at the right level. To make the breakthrough, because what happens in Cork and Dublin is the same, is that UCC and UCD have all the players, and they can't travel outside Dublin. So, like say, the county champions will be Cork, UCC or UCD, and they don't get to compete outside.
Well, this is fascinating. I mean, I could listen to this all night, but
can I say something?
Please, Johnny.
Just on a completely different subject. But I really want to get behind this because just the week that was in it, there was so much going on. But I thought, like, you know, that what's really come under the microscope has been social media and how bad it is. Hey. So but I think there can be a positive way for social network, especially Twitter, because that's the real one that was getting an awful lot of lambasting there from the solicitor of one of the guys who was acquitted. Basically, there was a program on last night. I don't know if anyone's seen it. It was on late on RT1. It's called Poverty Inc. And it's a documentary. You can find it online, I'm sure. I've seen the trailer, so I put it up. And I know Bob Geldof is going to be on the Late Late Show tomorrow. And I've seen Bob Geldof a few times up here in the Late Late. And I actually really, really, really like Bob Geldof. I've got a lot of respect for him down through the years in relation to what he tried to do. And he seems to be compromised now because he's part of the establishment. But what this documentary was about NGOs and charities, kind of looking at parts of Africa and principally Haiti in relation to all these NGOs coming in, all these charities coming in, and basically discrediting the locals and whatever funding or money that was raised by ordinary decent people. Went to the NGOs but didn't get to where it should have been, and that's what the documentary is about. And they showed a picture of Bob Geldof, but they said about Bono that he seems to be part of the establishment and highlighting all these causes. But it was really hard hitting. So as RTE showed that documentary, I'm trying to say, just ask Geldof what he thinks about. What's his opinion about the documentary? That's a question I'd love to hear answered.
Yeah,
because
you probably won't hear that in the late, I'm afraid.
No, but what I'm saying is, John, I've got the tweet now, and I'm after putting it out already. So if you hashtag the Late Late, and then just keep hitting it. That's one question. That's what I want to do. See if it's possible.
Yeah, sure.
The power of Twitter. Let's use it.
I literally wouldn't hold my breath, though. I mean, in terms of, you got two Blackrock boys talking to each other tomorrow night. It's not going to really.
What are you going to talk about? Him not getting the citizenship or something?
Yeah.
Or the freedom of Dublin? Yeah. Or the freedom of Dublin? They're going to use the whole conversation to talk about that.
And he'll sing probably, Johnny, as well. I mean, it'll be awful. It'll be as bad as the last time, and nothing will be achieved that you want or I want.
Oh God, I don't know.
On that note, on that bombshell.
Can I put some questions from the mosh pit to you guys?
Oh, please. Sorry, Johnny, I didn't want to end on that bad note.
Yeah,
I know.
This is quite an interesting one. It's well, it says pounds, but I think it means panel. From JDF Reality. What is the panel's views on the upcoming referendum? Should there be more than one topic? Why not both neutrality and water on the same time? People can handle 3 yes or no questions at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, JDF Reality, I agree with you. Absolutely. Yeah. I think they should put a bank of them in front of us and we go down yes, no. And I'd also include actually moving the voting age to 16.
Okay.
Thanks for the question.
Okay. Johnny, you seemed very crestfallen there. I wasn't trying to bring any.
No, John, you're being honest and a dose of reality. So
I've been watching Bob Geldof interviews for 40 years on Irish television.
But there is change here, man. There's change afoot. And I'd be very pissed off if Bob Geldof came on and started talking down to the Irish like he usually does. You know,
Okay.
surely, you know, you'd have to have a some kind of
Like,
thing. Because he sorry, I'll go.
Sorry to interrupt, John. I think that in the press release, Marty, that his view of Ireland has changed utterly. So he might talk about something he mightn't.
Okay.
It's a rat trap, Johnny. You've been caught.
I've been caught. We've all been caught.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Broadsheet on the Telly. A very big thank you to everybody in the mosh pit. I'll just come in and crowd surf for a second. Oh, thanks. Okay.
They'll be careful, they'll rob your stones.
Good to see you flying high, John.
Yeah. A big thank you to Johnny Keenan in Kilkenny, Luke Brennan in Porto, Olga Cronin in Dublin, Vanessa Foran in Dublin, and myself. We'll hopefully see you on this site tomorrow or here next Thursday. And a big thank you to everybody again in the mosh pit, commenters, Broadsheet commenters, everybody, and Shayna. Okay, hope you're okay. Okay.
Johnny, somebody in the mosh pit says they were talking to a friend of yours yesterday, Dead Bionic.
Dead Bionic.
Yeah, he's our man. So he was on.
Oh, we like.
Yeah, he's got a great one, lads. I'm going to put it up for you soon. It's a classic.
Okay.
It really is. It involves. We're still live there, are we?
Yeah, we are, Johnny. Johnny, I better close off then.
All right. I'll tell you about it.
See you in the morning. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody.